During the time of the Aztecs, cocoa was mainly used as a beverage. Wines and drinks were made from white pulp around the seeds of the cocoa pod. The beans themselves were used to make hot or cold chocolate drinks. Both the Maya and the Aztec secular drinks used roasted cocoa beans, a foaming agent sugar, toasted corn, and water. Vanilla and/or chili were also used as an ingredient in the drinks. Cocoa beans were also used as a currency and as a tribute tax from peoples ruled by Aztecs. The oily later floating in the chocolate drink cocoa butter was used to protect skin against the sun. For the Aztecs, cocoa had a religious significance. Cocoa was believed to be of divine origin. The cocoa tree was a bridge between earth and heaven. Human sacrifices to appreciate God or sun were first sanctified by giving him chocolate. Cocoa beans were given to priest assistants at children's coming-of-age ceremonies. During marriage ceremonies, the couples drank a symbolic cup of chocolate and exchanged cocoa beans. They believed that drinking chocolate gave mortals some of Quetzalcoatl wisdom, god of learning and the wind.
Sea creatures are inspiring the latest devices that harness wave power. This one, called the oyster, sits on the ocean floor and opens and closes as waves pass over it. Cables attach it to generators on the shore. Since November 2009, it's been powering 9,000 homes in the Orkney Islands. Another device looks like a snake. The anaconda is made from a rubber tube filled with water that floats just below the surface. When a swell hits the front of it, the tube is squeezed. A bulge ripples down its length and powers a turbine in its tail. Prototypes are currently being tested, but the full-scale version will be 200 meters long. This system also looks like a snake, but this one is made of steel. It floats near the surface, where waves make its joints move. This drives hydraulic systems that power electrical generators. Like the anaconda, it's still being tested. Results will prove if these devices are up to the job of supplying viable sources of green energy.
In 1963, Alan Newell and Herbert A. Simon proposed that symbol manipulation was the essence of both human and machine intelligence. They wrote, "A physical symbol system has the necessary and sufficient means of general intelligent action." This claim is very strong. It implies both that human thinking is a kind of symbol manipulation because a symbol system is necessary for intelligence, and that machines can be intelligent because a symbol system is sufficient for intelligence. Another version of this position was described by philosopher Hubert Dreyfus, who called it the physiological assumption. The mind can be viewed as a device operating on bits of information according to formal rules. A distinction is usually made between the kind of high-level symbols that directly correspond with objects in the world, such as dog and tail, and the more complex symbols that are present in a machine like a neural network. Early research into AI, called Good Old-Fashioned Artificial Intelligence by John Hogland, focused on these kinds of high-level symbols.
Today, 150,000 farmers in India have committed suicide in areas where seed has been destroyed, where they have to buy the seed from Monsanto and buy it every year at very, very high cost. And that high-cost seed is getting them into debt, and that debt is pushing them to suicide. What we've done is create community seed banks, places where we collect and save seeds, rescue them from disappearance, multiply them, and then distribute them according to farmers' needs. And about 40 community seed banks have been created across the length and breadth of India. Places where these have been created, farmers are not in distress, because the biggest cost today is seeds and chemicals. These seed banks have now been a new place where we can respond to the new crisis of globalization on the one hand and climate change on the other. Globalization has led to farmers' suicides. We are able to take seeds to these suicide zones and distribute the seeds so that farmers can break out of that dependency, grow food crops, get out of debt. We've been able to create community seed banks to deal with climate change, with the extreme flooding, the new droughts, the cyclones, the hurricanes that lead to salinization. And today for us, the work on seed has become the place from where we are responding to the worst tragedies and the worst crises of our times.
Laughter is one of the greatest therapies in combating adversity, and whole communities and nations have frequently relied on humor to get them through their bleakest time. On August 13, 1961, the barbed wire was rolled out of Berlin to create the Berlin Wall. For nearly 30 years, until it was dismantled, wall jokes proliferated. Especially among those living in the East, laughing was all that was left. Jokes about those who rule you, and sometimes those who tyrannize you, are a form of folklore that has existed in societies as seemingly different as communist Eastern Europe, Tsarist Russia, modern Egypt, 12th century Persia, and modern-day Iran. Humor can also be wonderfully subversive. It can protect self-respect and identity. In more totalitarian societies, laughter relieves, at least temporarily, the pressures and anxiety of political oppression. Political jokes may not in themselves topple dictators, but they can provide solace. In a democracy like our own, perhaps the trouble with political jokes is that they sometimes get elected.